Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, May 19th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and we'll be sure to get to them during the show. Overnight markets here, July corn up 3 3/4 at 447 1/4. July soybeans were also up 3 3/4 at 1053 3/4. And July Chicago wheat was up 5 3/4 at 530 3/4. This morning, we had an export sales announcement of 145,000 metric tons of soybean meal and cake for 24 to the Philippines. So that was announced. What we know this morning, looking at commitment of traders there from last week, we've got funds now short corn, long beans, short wheat. I know Dustin will talk about that here in a second. Weather for the majority of the corn belt appears to be pretty favorable, getting a little bit wetter in some areas that are asking for water. So we'll certainly continue to monitor and see what those systems end up bringing. And lastly, there late Friday and into the weekend, there was news that Moody's had downgraded the U.S. From AAA, from their AAA rating, taking their last AAA rating. And so I think that's got long-term interest rates higher here this morning. The bond markets are lower. And outside markets, the Dow is down a little over 300 right now as we speak. So with that, Dustin, maybe share a few thoughts here just in terms of what you're looking at as we start the week, and then we'll throw it around the room.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so, Friday we get the COT report data, and we did see over the last week and a half, that the ratio of beans divided by corn has jumped quite a bit. And I think that this really kind of just goes to show managed money crowd is still really a big influencer in the market. So Jack, if you want to pull it up. So this is corn net fund position, managed money funds using futures and options combined. That's in blue. And then the soybean net positions in orange. The y-axis shows, the positive above zero is when they're net long, below zero is when they're net short. So they just flipped almost 100,000 contracts in a single week for corn, where they had sold and started to build a decent net short position for corn as they actually added some bean longs. So huge appeal for the investment crowd to actually start trying to buy beans and sell corn. And, again, this really kind of started, you can see a while back from here, they had a much larger corn long position on. But as we got that acreage data, and it's getting a little bit more clear that things are progressing toward, a deal potentially between the U.S. and China, which I think would be a bigger deal for soybeans than it would be corn. And the funds tend to be trading that way, it looks like, at least. There are probably a number of different reasons why they're building this position. But I think that's a good reason why from about April, I think it was April 8th, we made the low, 2.19 to 1 ratio, and that's November beans divided by December corn. And we were up at 2.41 as of May 14th. That's a really big move in the ratio, and that just goes to show that the funds, I think, are still largely in control of this market.
Justin, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it last week as well. So it went from a low ratio to get the acres. We got the acres. Safrinha crop looks to be doing well or large, right? So you started taking some of that risk premium out of that ratio in favor of corn. And it's a big move, but it's kind of back to average now. Call it 2.4. Pretty, if you look at like long-term charts, pretty average. Might actually be where all the moving averages are. So, now I think you look at, if you take the acreage numbers at face value and even the last WASDE report, my opinion, I kind of agree with what they're doing. Beans have less of a buffer. Obviously, you still got to go, get those yields for corn as well and beans, but we're using record of both. And, you have to be less creative in beans to make it really friendly. So I think coming in sub 300 carry out, needing a record yield, what can derail that? To Dustin's point, what does the China trade deals look like, or some of these other ones? what happens as we talked about biofuel policy. It looks like some the bill versions of the bill have been approved, so we'll see just kind of how those things lay out. I think we've already been trading really good weather in both crops. Like I said, but we have to have really good weather to hit those yields. You can argue, there will be a lot of argument back and forth on the demand numbers. A lot of that goes into these trade deals though too. Looking at our weather being really good, you look at areas like China and Mexico. I know it's much harder to get a grasp on. It's hard enough here, but those have been pretty dry. They have been experiencing some other problems, as well as several areas in the world wheat country, like Australia and several places. So we are having good weather here. Obviously, Brazil finished with a good crop, but some major areas like Mexico, China could have some issues, and then I think just these trade deals that we have to watch out for.
Yeah, very good. Ben, what's on your mind?
You look at COT last week and pretty big week of selling in corn. Down, I think we said 6.5 cents on the week, and their short is built close by. And if they're going to continue with it, I think we have a kind of a sideways, poor, choppy market. But I think that if you're sitting on that short, you have to ask yourself, where's my out if things were to turn around? And with a lot of old crop already marketed because of really good prices over the last few months, and still a fair amount of uncertainty on new crop, although we're off to a pretty good start, I think you have to ask that question if you're willing to hold it short, and they've got a big position that was basically built in the last 15 cents on the board. So we'll see. It looks to me like weather stays pretty benign for the next couple of weeks. And, as we come back from Memorial Day weekend, we get a peek over the horizon to see a little bit longer forecasts and if the market has any reaction to it.
Sure. And we're going to get crop progress conditions here this afternoon, 3:00 Central. Guys talking about maybe getting into that 80% type of area for being complete. Justin, you agree with that? We probably see another significant bounce here.
I would think so. I don't see any reason that we wouldn't have gotten that. So, obviously there's Ben pointed at some areas in the East, and there's always going to be some trouble pockets. So sometimes you can be a little disappointed on the pace. The big ones will be like Illinois, some of these bigger states that were maybe lagging a little bit compared to the West. When you get those big states mostly planted, it's hard to gain too much ground. So I would think this would be one of our last big ones that we get.
Very good. Ryland, we'll talk about cattle here for a second. Little recovery on Friday in the cattle markets. It still feels like cash is leading the way, and then hogs are continue to be strong as we head into grilling season and get everybody fired up to cook out and have a good one there. So what are your thoughts as we start the week?
Absolutely. No, definitely a little bit of a recovery bounce. Hopefully we can see some follow through today just because of that fact. Yeah, cash, last week, very strong, 219 to 220 in the north, 227 to 229. So still breaking records up in the north for sure, and in the south. So, I don't think it was unwarranted to see some kind of break here. We really didn't see that big of a down in open interest. Open interest was up, coming into 653 contracts coming into today. So overall, funds are still very long this market. On commitment to traders reports showed them net long 135,000 contracts, adding another 2,200, and same thing in feeders, 32,000 contracts, adding 2,700. So there's still a big bet on the long side of the market here that things are going to hold up. And so I think everybody came in today looking at the discount on the board relative to cash, and if that's going to tighten up or not, or if that reversal is really going to stand out. So, like we said, last time this happened, the market broke pretty considerably for over almost 2 weeks, and then it recovered. So hopefully we can see more of that if cash market holds up. So all eyes are going to be on how the Packers tend to play it this week. But yeah, and new highs for the move in hogs, just holding near contract highs. So, that seasonal demand is strong. Cutout back over $1, and we're at a $1.12. Bellies were a little bit lower here, but there was a little bit of a down here on the cash side of the market. So that's going to be a bit of a question mark for the time being. Cash was down like $6.70. So we're going to see if that's going to possibly cause a little bit of a weakness here on the open. But overall, I think the demand sentiments are still pretty firm going into this week. We're just hoping that that's kind of a blip on the radar on the cash market.
Very good. Appreciate the update there. Also, just one more thing to note. There is a scheduled call. It's kind of hitting the headlines here this morning. Trump and Putin are scheduled to talk today. So something to keep an eye on the outside markets. We'll see if anything comes about there as they continue to try to forge some kind of a deal there between Ukraine and Russia. So we'll keep an eye there. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we'll have crop progress at 3:00 Central. Talk about that tomorrow morning in the war room. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. To keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with the AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every morning that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments there this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a good start to the week, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.